Hurry up! Fire at will!
The gap is on the right. We must press the advantage there.
It's a trap, Major. Pull back to the ridge before we lose everyone.
April 12th, 1861. Fort Sumter, South Carolina. The first shots of the Civil War echo across Charleston Harbor, and with them, a nation tears itself in two. But this wasn't just a war between North and South. It was neighbor against neighbor, father against son. In some cases, brother against brother, literally. Over the next 4 years, more than 3 million men would take up arms. 620,000 would never come home. More American deaths than World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam combined. This is the story of the war that nearly destroyed us, and the people who fought to determine what America would become.
Kids, hurry up!
Good day, Mrs. Ely. Mr. Ely sent us to escort you to the battlefield.
Right away! We're coming, Mama! Don't forget the blanket, darling. There we go.
That was close.
Should we go?
We're fine.
Look there, you see the smoke? Make way! Which way's the bridge? Back out of the road!
July 21st, 1861. 25 miles from Washington, a creek called Bull Run. On one side, 35,000 Union volunteers. On the other, about 20,000 Confederates. Neither army had fought a real battle. Most soldiers had signed up for 90 days because everyone agreed this whole thing would be over by fall 1861. The Union plan was actually pretty good. Swing around the Confederate left flank, cut off their railroad, march to Richmond. War over, home by dinner. General Irvin McDowell knew his men weren't ready. President Lincoln told him not to worry. The other side was just as green. He wasn't wrong. The attack started very well. Union forces pushed the Confederates back across Matthews Hill. Officers rode through the lines shouting,
Victory shall be ours, lads! On to Richmond!
5 miles away, civilians watched through opera glasses. They couldn't see much, just smoke rising above the trees. But messengers kept bringing good news. Then the Confederates fell back to a place called Henry House Hill, and everything changed. A Virginia brigade under a former professor from the Virginia Military Institute refused to run. As retreating soldiers streamed past him, General Barnard Bee pointed to the Virginians and shouted to his men,
The Virginians! Jackson is standing like a stone wall! Hold your ground, men! Forward!
Bee was killed minutes later, but the name stuck. Thomas Jackson became Stonewall Jackson. There wasn't a single soldier who wasn't suffering from the fog of war by then. Nobody could tell who was who. Union soldiers wore gray, Confederates wore blue. Both sides carried flags that looked almost identical. In the smoke and chaos, men shot at their own regiments. At one point, a Confederate unit in blue uniforms walked right up to Union artillery. The gunners assumed they were friendly and opened fire at point-blank range. On that same hill sat a small farmhouse. Inside, an 85-year-old widow named Judith Henry lay bedridden, too sick to move. She became the first civilian killed in the war when Union artillery shells tore through her bedroom. By afternoon, Confederate trains were arriving from the Shenandoah Valley. Fresh troops poured onto the field. Around 4 o'clock, the the Union line finally broke, and then came the part nobody planned for. 35,000 men tried to retreat down the same roads the picnickers had used to arrive. A wagon overturned on a bridge. Artillery jammed behind it. Soldiers threw down their rifles and ran. Those senators and congressmen who'd come to watch, they were running too. Senator Henry Wilson's buggy was destroyed by a Confederate shell. He escaped on a stray mule. Congressman Alfred Ely wandered too close to the fighting and became a prisoner of war. He spent the next 5 months in a Richmond prison. The only politician who actually made it to Richmond that day. By July 22nd, the shattered Union Army limped back into Washington. Nearly 3,000 Union casualties, about 2,000 Confederate, and both sides finally understood what they'd started. This wasn't going to be over in 90 days. No, it would last 4 years, kill over 600,000 Americans. And it started here, at a creek called Bull Run, where people packed picnics to watch a war.